Hello everyone and welcome to another I Pick My Butt video. More Kinja Run today, and Chapter 13 is a huge pain in the butt, especially me being free to play. I was burning up my energy and then having to wait the hour to get the 5 back to just go in again and lose. So I said to myself that I wasn't going to make all these chapter guide videos on this, but I figured this would be a good one to go through, give you a couple of tips on it, and then also would kind of break down some of the hidden stats inside the game. So the first ability we grabbed was Twin Fire, and this is going to shoot a second projectile alongside the first. And if we went in completely naked, no gear, no bonuses, this ability would reduce our damage per shot by 25%. But as you can see, we went with 983 and we're only doing 812. That's not exactly 25%, that's more like 18%. And that's because inside the game, the damage formula is not additive, but more focused on multiplication. If we were going by additive, if we went and grabbed 4 of these Twin Fires, every time we reduce 25%, we would be left with 0% for damage. So this is more of what the actual formula looks like when we're trying to calculate how much damage we're really putting out inside the game. The next ability I grabbed was Prong Shot, and you can see it's pretty much a diagonal arrow. We're not actually reducing damage with this one, although it is giving us 2 extra projectiles out of the screen, and because I'm using the Iron Boomerang, which is going to slightly affect the direction of my attack, it pretty much makes it where all 3 of those projectiles are going to be hitting a single enemy. The next ability we grabbed was Elemental Fire, and this one is kind of okay, not really crazy about it. I'm more focused on projectiles, but this is going to do kind of what we call a bleed effect. I mean, once we hit an enemy, there's going to be kind of this tick that's going to hit every couple of seconds afterwards, and it looks like this hits a total of 4 times. Now the damage after all this multiplication and so on, it looks like we're hitting it for about a third of our base damage on it. You can see we're hitting for 326, and like I said, it will go hit the first time and then bleed 3 times after that. If you re-hit the enemy, it's going to restart the counter on it. Another thing to keep an eye on is it looked like our attack actually went from 812 up to 893, so it looks like there is a small attack percentage in here. Once again, don't know the exact number without going in naked on this run, but it is a nice little thing to know that, hey, when I go in, I'm going to get a damage increase, and then I'm going to get that burn effect too on the enemies. So I'm going to grab Ricochet here in a second, and I really believe this one is huge towards the end of the stages because of the mobs that come out during the waves. There tends to be a lot more of them. Now we are going up against the Ghost and the Scorpion here for the final boss, and the Ghosts themselves aren't really too bad at all. I really don't focus on one or the other. I'm just kind of trying to shoot and avoid the projectiles. For the Scorpion itself, I find it's best to stay right in the center of the screen, as you can see, and a lot of the times it'll line up perfect with you that you don't even need to move to dodge on them. I actually find sometimes it's easier, instead of trying to dodge left or right, to pull back on the screen and bring yourself closer to the bottom. The game always wants to kind of throw you in the same spot there, right in the center, maybe a couple inches up from the bottom of the screen, but you still have the option to pull back too. So keep that in mind. It's a lot better way than trying to swivel left or right and then get hit by those projectiles. That attack speed up looked very tempting, but I actually went for the shield here. I take a lot of damage when taking hits, and with the shield, it pretty much guarantees that I'm going to absorb one of those hits inside the game. Also, I finally got the ability at the 4th larger talent on it, which is called Undaunted, meaning that if I take a big hit that's going to kill me, I'm going to be left with 1 hit point, which really helps out, means that I can take about 4 hits inside the game before I end up dying. These guys right here that jump back and forth, they're pretty easy to dodge. You'll learn the timing on them, but pretty much just move 3 times just slightly in one direction and you're able to avoid them. Like I said, focus more on the dodging than the hitting inside the game, and it really tends to help out because if you're dead, you can't make the attacks. They really want me to take this attack speed up, but we are going to go for the revive here. Even though it is only going to revive us with 30% health when we die, we do have that Undaunted once again, which is going to guarantee us an extra 2 hits to stay alive with. As good as I think I might be at this game, having too many projectiles on the screen will guarantee I'm going to take those hits. So my main goal on this is try to find things that are going to keep me alive, and then find things that are going to give me more projectiles and speed up those projectiles. So as you can see, 3 dodges on here. The ones that shoot the purple ones, not really a threat at all. We're just kind of working our way through, but this is where things get a little tricky with the trees. I've learned with these guys to either go far over to the left or far over to the right. Don't worry about hitting the sides at all. All those things that look like spikes on the side or the icicles sticking out of the ground, they're not going to damage you at all. But at least by going to one side, you can avoid a whole bunch of those other tree projectiles, because when they do make a line, you're guaranteed to get hit by one of them. So when I got my next ability here, I took a couple of seconds to kind of decide. There was the Shadow Warrior Phantom on here, and I don't remember exactly, but I think you might need to have another Shadow Warrior like the Shadow Warrior Flame in order to have the Phantom, meaning that you're going to take one and then add a second one to it. I could be wrong on that, but I always kind of stay away because of that thought process on it. So we did grab the Shadow Warrior Flame, which is going to be the same thing as our regular Flame ability, except for it's going to be the Shadow Warrior just kind of shooting a homing missile that's going to do the same damage. As far as this is just kind of quick fingers here. We know to dodge 3 times. We just really have to worry about that main projectiles that are coming out in purple there, and it's just a matter of dodging twice. You just got to be quick on it and stay back in order to get rid of them. And I want to say real quick, when we grabbed that Shadow Fire Elemental, it didn't give us any attack increase like the Elemental Fire did to our main hero. We're going to grab the crit rate large here, which is going to increase our crit rate by 45%, and you'll see the attacks here are doing about 2300 damage. That is not increasing our crit rate damage, that's actually the bleed effect of the fire getting critted on there. So you'll see in a second we're doing about 1700 damage for our regular crit. Prior to grabbing this ability, I was critting maybe about once every 30 to 45 times. Now I'm actually critting for about once every 10 to 15 times. So, you know, it's going to increase our double damage on there. Occasionally, you might see a crit pop up for 23,000 or even 17,000. That's because of the second large talent ability. You get it at level 3. It's called Exposed Weakness, and it's going to give us a 1% chance to hit at 10 times the damage. So you figured that plus the crit, that's where we're seeing that large number on it. And once again, kind of easy here if you get the timing down. The 3 jumps, move slightly. Once again with the trees, you see me moving over to the left-hand side, makes it a little bit easier to dodge them, to at least get rid of one of them. And then I just kind of work my way in, but there is a lot of projectiles on the screen, so I'm pretty much bound to get hit by one of these. What can I say? Even the best of us here still take some damage from time to time, but like I said, we will heal up and get ready to go into the next boss, which this one can be a little bit trickier once we get into them. We'll talk about them and give you some techniques here in a second. Now, I did grab the second Twin Fire here, which was probably a bad idea. I probably should have grabbed the offhand Holy Light, but given the fact that I thought I was going to be moving a lot, I thought the Twin Fire would be better. Although stacking a second Twin Fire on top of the first really seemed to reduce our damage on it here, and it looks like we really did reduce on the second one 25%. So the first one really only reduced maybe about 17 or 18%, but that second one did make kind of a big hit, so we really have to land that extra projectile to make up for the difference on it. So keep that in mind. You might not want to really grab a second one, but as far as here with this guy that's rolling around, I try to stick over to either the left or right hand side. He gets so close to you that that second to last projectile, like you saw right there, usually hits. If you're able to get all the way over to one side of the screen, either moving slightly up or slightly down can make it where you can dodge it, and it's a little bit better than having those projectiles right up and close to you squished together when you're sitting there in the middle. That's where I was taking a lot of the hits in the past, and then I finally learned, let me just go to the side, I have a better chance of missing them. And I will say once again, all these abilities and their multipliers are going to be different when you're just grabbing a single ability for itself the beginning versus when they stack up. Obviously, you're not going to be doing the long equation when you're playing the game, so I kind of try to just figure to myself, hey, I know this is going to give a drop in my damage this much versus this much, and kind of choose by that when picking the abilities. We just grabbed Omni Boost, which is going to increase all our stats, and it's a little bit tough to tell on the hit points on this because I never really actually gained up to full health on it. But what I could see is it did bring our attack back up close to where we were before we grabbed that second twin shot, and now our actual crits seem like they're hitting maybe about once every 6 or 7 times. There's a lot more of those on the screen. Although the crit damage really didn't change too much, we are kind of back to where we are with some more crits in there, and obviously attack speed looks like it went up just slightly too. For the runs that I didn't have a lot of projectiles and doing a lot of crit, this was typically where I was dying. Like the times where I was picking more offhand abilities and maybe more elementals. So that's what I really try is focus on projectiles and for damage dealt on it. Now going into the final boss, this one can be a little tricky. I'm grabbing the offhand bolt strike on this here because my divine necklace actually gives 100% damage extra for the offhand, so it seems to be the best way to go there. It is a good increase in damage, and those lightning bolts themselves seem to hit pretty frequently. Really tough to tell here, but as far as the boss himself, this one can be very difficult. You can see the beam there. It doesn't really seem to be too much of an area where, you know, the beam starts out straight, focuses down to a little tiny one. I've gotten pretty close to it and it really doesn't seem to be doing too much damage, but if you are right in straight line with it when it does hit, it will kind of cream you pretty good. As far as the projectiles, like I said, I'm focusing more on those and just kind of wiggling back and forth. Stay back as far as you can and still try to stay in the center. Going over to the far left-hand side or right-hand side will cause you trouble in this, but keeping it just in the middle, you can see we're kind of just working slow little movements to get out of the way. But once again, that beam, you see, we're just kind of like, let me get out of the way. We did take a little bit of a hit there, but as you can see, it's not as bad as you have once you get those enemies down. If you do have the extra mobs in there, this can be a very difficult guy, and I did die to him plenty of times. So realistically, kill the mobs, stay in the middle, and just kind of worry about going left and right. Don't focus as much on that beam like I did there. You're seeing I'm doing more bad than good by trying to dodge it, and right now we're standing in it and it's not doing it. So it seems like it's that first initial hit. But really curious to know what you guys think on this. Are you stuck on this one? Let me know if you want to see more of these Kinja Run videos. Join the Discord. We got a lot of people talking about it in there. But other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and remember, I pick my butt.